everybody. I finally finished my Tall and Skinny. I actually finished it a couple weeks ago. I worked on it on some lives. I started this back in June. It's made with an Azon bag. This is the first time I ever did this. The paper that I got from at Sabrina's Windows, and I used on my own. It contains some vintage lace as well as some new lace, and the vintage lace is from Vienna, Poland, and France. There's two signatures that are hand sewn in. I covered it with lace. I just wanted to kind of complete the cover, kind of make it all pull together. The material that I put on the outside, I covered the back with some beautiful lace. On the inside, we have a pocket with antique lace here. I have a nice big tag that was black and white, and I embellished it with color. There is on the fairy wings here, there's some Stella wings to give it that little shimmery look, and it's always hard to have the camera pick it up. This is a vintage card here. I have a couple paper clips that I made with some vintage lace and a little trim. On the other side, I have a nice little pocket, and it has an antique calling card. And this was remember this friend. So it has Guy Schmidt and who the person they're calling upon. Not quite sure. It looks like it's Linda or Lydia Smith. Not quite sure about the name. The lined paper that you see here is from a Lucky Star magazine, from the Lucky Star notebook from the 1950s. And this is tea stain paper. I have 3 tags that are stuck together that can come apart. They're held on with a nice little brad. Little vintage look with printing on the back. And then we have a nice old tag with some lace on it. Here we have decorated stained paper. I had hand sewn 2 wooden buttons here, and then I covered it with doily on the back. We do have a wax seal here with some vintage lace underneath it. I have another paper clip that I added here with some lace on both sides. All my journals, when I add music sheets or I add any kind of novels or old books, I try to find something that I think matches the theme. This one I thought was nice, and I added Romeo and Juliet from a book from 1897. Here's another pocket where I have a little embellishment with a stone. And then I just made a tag with 2 pieces of vintage lace. And these also have some shimmery embellishments from the Stella wings. Here we have 2 pockets for tags. All have vintage lace on top. Here's another tag with another little pocket, also enhanced with some antique lace and Stella wings. And this one could also go in this pocket. Lots of fun journaling things. On this journal page, I added a pretty iridescent butterfly, and you were able to bend these wings to have them any shape that you like. Beautiful paper. Once again, here's another folded piece with the other half of the wax seal. Just a little embellishment there. This is beautiful. This is an old French postcard. The person's name is Gabrielle, and we picked it because my daughter's name is Gabriella. This is actually vintage lace, and this is an old earring from my grandmother. Here's just a divider here. You can actually use it also as a bookmark. You will see it has a little resin flower here. and a little glass flower at the top holding it in. We have another pocket on the beginning of the signature, also with writing areas on the side, some lace and some ribbon, and another little tag in here. On this side I made 2 more tags, and this time I used all the scrap paper from the book, from Masterboard, and then I added some stencil, and I matched the colors, and I just put 2 different ways to do your ribbon. Once again, here's just some vintage lace, and I did a half a wax seal here. Just embellished this with some butterflies. This I actually worked on our live, and it's just a little notebook. I actually really loved the bird paper. I thought it was really cute to go in the journal. If you don't like it in the journal, it could also be skinny enough that you can actually put it in your purse. And there's a nice mix of old and new paper in here. So, here we have 2 more pockets with 2 more tags. Plenty of writing space in the tags. Little old vintage lace and another wax seal. Here we have another envelope with a little card inside that can be personalized. Here we have another pocket, and this is another paper clip that I used. You'll see some vintage lace here. This is actually a wire ribbon that I took the wire out of and cut it and shaped it. And then here we have a half an earring, and then this came from a bracelet from my grandmother. Here I just did some cutouts. So the lamp is a cutout, and then there's 2 cutouts here, and I turned that into a pocket with a nice French themed tag. And if you notice that this pattern will match pattern that's used throughout the journal. And we have another pocket here. This pocket is a little different. This was made from one of the calling cards. And inside here it says, "Accept my unchanging love," and it's from Guy Smith. Here's another little tag that I made with some vintage lace. And then here you'll see a little belly band. And this is an old scarf clip. And I took the back piece off and just used that as embellishment. This was supposed to be a bookmark, but I decided to turn it into a journal. So I have some nice vintage lace here. And if you undo the bow, it's a nice way to close it. This is the back. And then inside you have some pretty paper. A different kind of paper. And there's a few pieces that I actually hand did and used some stencil in there with some coffee stained paper. And that's that one. Fits nicely here. And that is the end of my journal. It is a little thicker than I wanted it to be after I added the signatures. So I have a nice little cream satin ribbon that can be used to tie it up, to keep it closed. It will have some ephemera that goes with it. This journal is definitely available, and if you're interested in this journal, please feel free to DM me. Thank you. Thank you for joining me in my lives while I was working on this. Take care, and I love you for your support. Have a good night.